Hello everyone, we are now on the fourth factoring technique and today you're gonna learn how to factor perfect square trinomial. For you to be able to easily understand this topic, I want you to activate your prior knowledge regarding perfect square as well as how to get their square roots. This lesson is the direct opposite of squaring a binomial. Recall that when we square a binomial a plus b, the answer is a perfect square trinomial. So now, we will be given a perfect square trinomial and we will going to express it as a square of a binomial. So what is a perfect square trinomial, by the way? A perfect square trinomial is a polynomial containing three terms, wherein its first and its last terms are both perfect square, and that its middle term is 2 times the square root of the first term times the square root of the last term. Also, take note that its second operation is always plus, while its first operation could be plus or minus. The factors of this perfect square trinomial are two similar binomials which can also be expressed as a square of a binomial. The first term of this binomial is the square root of the first term on the given, while its second term is the square root of the last term of our given. Its operation is the first operation on our given perfect square trinomial. Let us proceed in discussing some examples for you to master that process. A squared plus 4a plus 4. Before we express this as a square of a binomial, let us analyze if it is a perfect square trinomial. The first term a squared is a perfect square. Its last term 4 is also a perfect square. It can be expressed as 2 squared. Its middle term is the same as 2 times the square root of the first term, which is a, times the square root of the last term, which is 2. The product of this leads to 4a. So now we are ready to express it as a square of a binomial. To do so, we get the square root of the first term, and the square root of that is a. Next is we copy the first operation on our given perfect square trinomial. And then we will get the square root of the last term. Its square root is 2. And then we will enclose it in a pair of parentheses and have an exponent of 2. So therefore, a squared plus 4a plus 4 is just the same as the square of a plus 2. Next, we have 4a squared minus 20a plus 25. Let us check if it is a perfect square trinomial. 4a squared is a perfect square, as well as 25. The middle term is the same as 2 times the square root of 4a squared, which is 2a, times the square root of 25, which is 5. Multiplying this, we will have 20a. Now, let us express it as a square of a binomial. Getting the square root of 4a squared, we have 2a. Copying the minus operation, getting the square root of 25, which is 5. Square this, so 4a squared minus 20a plus 25 is equivalent to the square of 2a minus 5. For our last example, let's have 9c squared minus 24cd plus 16d squared. Let us check if it is a perfect square trinomial. 9c squared is a perfect square, as well as 16d squared. The middle term is the same as 2 times the square root of 9c squared, which is 3c, times the square root of 16d squared, which is 4d. Multiplying this will result into 24cd. Express it as a square of a binomial. The square root of 9c squared is 3c. Copying the minus operation here, and then getting the square root of 16d squared, which is 4d. Now all we have to do is to square this binomial. So 9c squared minus 24cd plus 16d squared is equivalent to the square of 3c minus 4d. So there you have it. That's how we get the factors of a perfect square trinomial. This is very easy because we already know how to square a binomial. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, click on the thumbs up. You may also check our playlist regarding special products and do not forget to subscribe.